Oh, my hermit crabs are out. Hi. We're here with hermit crabs today. Are you going to come out? Here you are. Hi. Hi. You're coming out. Sure you are. I see you. You're going to be out here for a little bit. Whoop. Ow. That's my finger. Be careful. You've got that purple claw. It's pretty strong. We're here with several hermit crabs. There's another one. There's our little baby one. Hi. You're the little nice one. You know, crabs each have their own personalities. They actually do. And this is one of our friendliest ones. You're a tiny little one. Oh, right there. And Tosh is here too. Tosh suddenly showed up. Say hi, Tosh. We're always trying to get Tosh to talk. Hey, okay, back up. Go away. Thank you. All right. All kinds of stuff came in. I'm going to hold them up so that everybody gets to, by everybody I mean them, so that all three of them have a chance to contribute. You really are choking me today, Kenji. Hang on. There we go. Now I can breathe. So we have Kenji, we have hermit crabs, and we have, this is not her actual cage. This is a small cage that fits on the chair. And we have, come here. Not the ideal way to pick up a pig. Come here. We have Princess Squirrely Girl. She's a good girl. Yes, she is. There she is. She's a good girl. Hi. Want to say hi to the people? You're a good girl. You are. Princess Squirrely Girl. She's actually a very calm pig, aren't you? You're fine, little girl. We're just waiting for a few more people to come on. Then I'm going to put you back in your house, and if you feel like piping up and adding to the conversation, then I'm sure you'll do it. She's a noisy little pig. Here you go. And we have Sister Celery in the rest of the room, and she's a very noisy pig. Anyway, we're just going to see what comes in. I've got a couple of things I'm going to talk about. Also, I'm noticing in the screen, my glasses are really crooked. They broke, and I glued them. And I glued them crooked. So now they don't sit on my face right. All right. I think we have enough people here. So, you know, something tells me I'm going to need this. All kinds of things have been shifting. Things are changing so fast. Multiple timelines. Tweaking, for those of you who know about, who've been following my work for a while, here we go with the adjusting. There's something about, is it this side? No, it's this side. I have to go that way, yeah. Once again, I start off with topics that I expect to talk about. I can already tell that this is going to be a transmission, and things, images are already coming in. There is shifting taking place in the collective. And so I'm delivering a transmission And it's a mixed transmission, so a large portion of it is the generalized transmission that comes through me, which is basically the same thing that that I always transmit. It's kind of like a cosmic water pick, and it clears out debris. We really are at a time when we need to do a lot of that. I hope you can hear me. There's I'll get back to the transmission in a second. I'm moving a lot now because the energy is really running. Many things have shifted since my last live stream. Quite a bit has been moving. The energy tonight. Oh, I started to say I became aware on the last show that I did with Maria and Sarah that on a portion of it I sounded like I was just shouting the entire time. I'm extremely clairaudient, but I'm entirely deaf in this ear, and I'm about 30% deaf in this ear. So it makes it weird because I can hear about 15 different dimensions that I'm aware of, and I hear that consistently, but I very often can't hear a lot of the stuff that most other people can hear. So it makes it difficult. Sometimes it makes it difficult to judge my own volume. When I listened to the show that I did with Maria and Sarah, there was a large portion of it that I just sounded like I was shouting, and I know that I wasn't mad. And I didn't even think I was shouting. But when I get emphatic, or when the energy is really, really running strongly, sometimes I just get very loud. So bear with me. I hope you can hear me. I can't tell what other people can hear. Back to the transmission. So a couple of things are going to happen that I'm aware of. There's the generalized transmission that comes through me every time, but then it's almost like, it reminds me of a sidecar. There's like the dominant stream of energy, but then there's a secondary stream of energy that is composed of personalized individual frequencies, which are coming in on strands designed for every person who's listening. So there have been some of my transmissions which have done that in the past, but to the best of my understanding, this one is doing it to a new degree. There's a new proportion of personalized, yes, personalized transmission. Codes are being transmitted to each one of you who is listening. They're showing me a praying mantis. I don't know why. We'll get back to it. So yesterday, I guess I'll catch you up on what's been happening while the energy runs. So whether I should preface this by saying that no matter what comes in, you might experience physical sensations. You might experience nothing. Doesn't mean you're not receiving a code. If you're not going to get a code if you don't want light codes to come in, you do have a choice to refuse them. But if you so desire, you are now free to, and I invite you to just mentally open yourself up and say, I would like to receive light codes. I am willing to connect with my brethren. I would like to go, put me on my highest timeline available to me at this time. I choose to receive light codes. I choose to receive expansion. There are in these personalized strands that are coming in, personalized codes for each of you. that are in harmony. It's funny, I didn't think we were going to talk about this. I didn't even know about this until just now. I kind of knew it was coming in the future, but this is the first time I've heard it. Personalized codes are being delivered to those of you who choose to receive them, to those of you who are willing. Personalized frequencies that are in harmony with whatever your individualized mission, personal assignments. It has to do, these are codes that are coming in that have to do with individual assignments. That just doesn't mean it's going to be your permanent assignment, but there are many who are called at this time to step up into a higher degree of service, a higher level of service. It's kind of like going upstairs. You just step up, and the next level of service is the next level of service. It's just like stepping up a step. And that doesn't mean you're going to stay on a given stair and, forever. You don't have to be locked into it. It just means that as long as it takes you to complete whatever that task is, that's how long you stay on that particular stair. In the process of ascension, all of us are invited, and actually it's one of the group assignments. It's kind of mandatory that, what did I say that wrong? Hang on. It's a requirement. As we ascend, part of ascension involves stepping up into a greater degree of service, or a degree of service if you're somebody who has never been in service. Service toward others. And what that actually means is you have a purpose in the world where you're making a positive contribution to others and the planet, your environment, etc. So it doesn't have to be like some kind of heavy assignment. Although some of us do choose those roles, or we have some karma that makes it so we need to go into that role. Some of us were called to particular assignments or particular tasks that are like behemoths. And Sarah Adams, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of me too. I've got one of those behemoth tasks. But there are a lot of let me backtrack. Try to hear that without going into any kind of idea about like a value judgment. Like somebody is worth more than another person because they have some sort of like great task or something, because it doesn't work that way. There are a whole wide variety of reasons why somebody would have some massive assignment in the ascension of the planet. And so many millions of us were called. There's nobody here by accident. There are some people who haven't discovered their tasks yet, or who know about them and are trying to ignore them. But all may choose to be of service. And even the ones who aren't in service are providing a certain degree of contrast for those of us who are. So everything has a place, everything has value. That said, I've been working lately with, remember how I've said this before, that in my individual sessions and also the the people that I'm called to work with, I wind up working with for particular tasks. And as we work on that, sometimes I'm in more than one place at a time. That very often happens. I'm working with Maria Therese on one thing, and I'm working with Sarah Adams on something else, and I'm working with Kimberly Hall on something else. And then I've got my own personal assignment and all of these things. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. And what's interesting, I think I was talking with Maria about this the other day, is that for a while, it seemed like the tasks were very spread out. Like it seemed, I knew that I was working in one way or another toward the ascension of the collective, but it wasn't even apparent to me always exactly how these things were going to come together. Or if they came together, it seemed like they were isolated. Like I'd work on one thing for a while, and I had a lot of steps in my own individual, resolving my own individual ancestry and karma, etc. But now what's interesting is that it started out like the edges of a clock, or like the crust of a pizza. And now I've been going around and around and around, kind of like around the numbers of a clock, or around the whole pizza. If you can imagine that it's like a whole pizza, but it's cut. So there were all of these individual different tasks, areas that needed to be addressed. And I've been working on those. And what's interesting now is that it's coming in. It's kind of like I started out working with a particular level, strata, and worked with a lot of people who were kind of stationed there. And then I've been going up a level and up a level and up a level. And now the people that I've been working with, the group is getting smaller, and also the group is interconnected. We were always interconnected, but now I'm not the only commonality, which is nice. It's like, like people are having phone calls and, where it doesn't involve me, which is neat, because for a while I felt like I was the only common, like I would seem to be the common denominator. Basically, things are just becoming more and more connected. Should I put this snake down? What are you going to do? Last time I put him down on the table, I thought I lost him, and I looked around for him for about an hour and a half because I thought he was lost in the apartment. I couldn't find him anywhere. And it turned out he crawled into my purse, and he was actually in there. And I only found him when I was on my way to the grocery store. That was cool. That was a surprise. Hang on a minute. I'm going to put my purse on the table so he can crawl into it, because he loves my purse. It's his favorite. Come here, Kenji. There. Give him a nice little thing to climb in. You go walk away. You see him later. Goodbye. Walk over there. I know, I took your chair. This is Tosh. He wants to be in the live stream too. But I took his chair. I'm sitting in it today. Okay, walk away. No, really, walk away. He doesn't listen, this dog. He's not my most listening dog. He's the dog that wants to be pressed to me no matter what I'm doing. If we get 5 feet of distance, we're in good shape. So a couple of things happened. Yesterday was an intense day. And it's interesting because the day prior, I might get some of my time a little bit wrong, but I think I'm right. I've been talking a lot, often with Maria Therese and with Sarah Adams too. For those of you who didn't catch the call that the three of us did together, That was a good one. What's happening now is that the people that I'm working for, it's kind of like we're getting closer and closer to what I'm thinking of as center point. And I don't know what center point is or what's going to happen when we get there, but I'm just aware that things are, it's kind of like gears. It reminds me a little bit of gears. Like for a while, the gears are separate. Actually, it's a very good analogy. That is pretty much what's going on now. When the gears were separated, things were turning, but everybody was kind of revolving and doing their own job, and it was more or less isolated. Or we weren't aware of the way it was connected. And for a while, it seemed like whatever was happening in that gear over there wasn't having a direct effect on what was because you just weren't, there was still so much isolation or still so much separation that the effects of that person doing whatever they were doing wasn't necessarily felt or apparent. That is starting to really shift rapidly. Stuck hermit crab, hang on, there we go. So what's happening now is more and more people are stepping up into their particular tasks and coming up into a level of a degree of service. And as that happens, it's kind of like, a good analogy would be if it would be like a chessboard that was also like a gear panel. And as more and more people step up and take their places, the gears begin to interlock a little more. So what one person does has a stronger effect, and it's making everything shift. And I know that my particular role is kind of like I'm in the center of the pizza. Like when you order a pizza and you get that little plastic piece in the center, that's like my role. I'm like, when we were talking about the third dimension, it was more of an army. And I'm like the general of the army, or I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I'm like a general in an army. And I know that every time I work with an individual person, whether it's in a paid session or it's like a colleague or a coworker or something, I always am working with a group. And when I work with an individual, whatever shift we make in the work that we're doing together, one-on-one, which makes the 11, it's taking another group up a level. It's kind of like every person I work with is a portion of the 11 gateway. Like we make an 11 and we do some sort of a task. So Marie-Therese and I have been working in the financial system, and I've worked with other people on the financial system, like Angel Divine and I set up kind of like a portal one time. This was a while ago. This was some months ago, over the United States, where she was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast. And I think I mentioned that session in one of my other live streams. And that was neat because we set it up for the United States, knowing that it was going to go, it was going to have an effect in the world. But with the work that we did in that session was for the US and the United States financial system. So recently, so it's kind of like we established we're laying a framework. So much work for so long has been about setting things up so that work can be done, like so the tweaks can be made. It's kind of like we're getting all of the gears in place, but none of like for so long, nothing was actually turning together because everything was still too separate. Just recently, we're finally beginning to see enough people get up there where gears are starting to come together in kind of small clusters, so that, like when Maria Therese and I were working together, it's like the gears are coming together, and I know that close by is Sarah Adams and close by is Kimberly Hall, and I know what they're doing and what their job is. And like Maria Therese and Kimberly Hall and Sarah Adams, we all know one another and what each one is doing. So the gears are working, and I'm just, it's interesting. It's a difficult thing to kind of describe because there's so much overlap. It's like it's like a wild Venn diagram in a lot of ways. It's like, no, there are no really clear-cut edges. Like all of us on some level are working, seems to me, to be working in some respect with the twin flame issue. Things have been coming in with it, the divine masculine, what's going on with the divine feminine, and various levels of clearing. But it's so fascinating that all of these pieces move together. And things happened yesterday. The real reason I came on to talk today is because, man, Shevitz, stuff went down yesterday. I started, the Joan memories came back or the energy came back to be cleared, came back to me in 2013. And I started clearing it at that time. And certain aspects still have to be addressed, but for the most part, it's largely cleared. It's not completely cleared. There are certain things I know are coming in because I haven't even broached it yet. Not really. I've touched it a little, but I haven't really touched it. So I know certain things are coming in for me. And I know that I've been saying, what's the holdup? But there are some major things that really need to be cleared. What are you doing? Sorry, Kenji's coming around. You want me to pull this off? Just a minute. He's on the table, but he's not going in my purse. I've got about, I don't know, maybe 50 tarot decks on the table. And what are you doing, darling? I don't want these to fall on you. He has coiled himself around deck of cards, and I don't want them to crash down on him. He's also, it's so interesting. I don't think he can see all that well right now because he's in the middle of, he's just about to shed. For those of you who've ever had snakes, it's so interesting. I should have had him on about a couple of days ago, right before he sheds, just to change the subject momentarily. Right before he sheds, or I should say maybe a week before he sheds, he gets very pale, and he doesn't go into hibernation, but he kind of goes into, he wants to be alone, so we let him. And he gets very pale, and then he can't see as well because the scale, it's one scale covering his eyes, and it kind of gets looser. But then the interesting thing, so it makes sense that he would get paler if he's just about to shed because the skin's getting looser. But the interesting thing, I've always thought this was so funny on all my snakes, they get pale and they disengage. It's like their skin dislodges a little bit before they shed about a week. But then all of their color comes back and they look normal again. They look totally normal. Like right now, his color's back and he's active and he's eating and he feels fine. He's nice and friendly again. But I know that right after the pale part comes the normal color part. And then right after that, he's going to shed. So he's either going to shed like tonight or tomorrow. And then he's going to be starving. He's very regular, this snake. Anyhow, I'm just keeping an eye on him because he's crawling on the table. And if I might have to get up and pick him up if he starts to, he loves to dig in the dirt too. And I've got my money, I moved my money tree, my big money tree with a deep pot. I moved that onto the table. And if past history is anything to go on, he's going to find that very interesting and want to dig a hole. So I've never had a snake like this who likes to burrow. He actually likes to burrow just for fun. He does that in his cage, and he'll come up with a big line of dirt on his head, and he just like plays in it. I've never had a snake who actually played, but you can tell it's kind of what he's doing. Anyway, if I have to get up and move one or the other of him, because I feel like, you ever watch your toddler or something, like they're okay where they are for a while and they're in like a safe cupboard, but then they start to like head toward the knife drawer, and you're like, well, if you go over there, I'm gonna have to step in and do something. Right now he's on top of something, and if it starts to fall, I'm gonna have to jump up. But he might be okay for a while. I will let him explore because he likes it. Anyway, where was I? So these missions are beginning to come together. And yesterday, things have Maria Therese is doing some really fascinating work. And what the two of us both noticed, if you were not able to hear the financial call, you should go listen to it, because we kind of talked about what she's doing. And when I work with her, the same way as when I work with anybody, whatever the work we do, whatever that person is doing individually is what is happening for the group that they represent, and I carry the group energy. So yeah, and you know also that anything that happens during a session or during a transmission, during one of these calls, it means something. Nothing is ever random. No matter how wonky it seems, somehow there's something having to do with Kenji. Kenji's on top of the stacks of tarot decks. I'm just paying attention because very often after one of these calls, something will happen in the video, and I never think of it as a, even if it's a distraction, it always means something. And so one of the reasons I just allow something to come in, because even if I don't know whatever it means at the moment, I almost always recognize something in whatever the event was. Like if he knocks over all the tarot cards, or if he gets lost or whatever, it means something that actually relates to the rest of you, everybody who's on the call. So that's just going to inform me about something. I don't know what yet. So yesterday I was talking to Maria Therese in the morning, and an interesting thing happened in our session. It was not really a session, it was just kind of a meeting. And she had just come out of the shower, so we were both aware that it was a time of being like fresh and cleaned, purified. And the one interesting thing was that the call got dropped. You know, sometimes you just get interrupted. And it was her twin who had actually called her while we were on the phone. So that had significance, obviously. And then after I was done talking with her, something is going on with the masculine collective. I'm not entirely sure exactly what, but I spoke to Kimberly Hall afterward, and I know that when I worked with her, like the issue with Maria Therese, even though it's twin related, because almost everything at this point has some degree of some area that it's somehow related to twin flame union or reunion, or the twin grid, more like the twin grid, or at the very minimum, balance of masculine and feminine and issues, whatever's going on there. And I'm keenly aware of that. And that's kind of like that's one of the only really universal issues that damn near everyone I talk to has something related to that. Most of them, not all of them, but really most. But then Kimberly Hall, I know that from my private session with her, she's the person that I'm kind of, she's the person that I've been doing the twin flame work with. Like somehow she's like she's somehow in the position where she's representing that community. And so whatever work I'm doing with her is shifting, the work we do together is shifting for the collective in a much more targeted way. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. So what I came on to talk about today is what the hell happened yesterday, because damn, I have done my share of clearing from work, from waking up in 2013. And it's been really heavy clearing. You know, hundreds of thousands of ho'oponoponos and prayer work and sage and energy healing and purging to the point of vomiting and, you know, all these symptoms. I was working with Kate Loy for a while, for a long time. I was working with Kate Loy, one of the best interdimensional shamans. She's phenomenal healer. She's really got incredibly high level skills. And she was working with me for about 1.5 years regularly. And together we would just do this massive purge work. You know when you're clearing something, for those of you who've done it, when you're clearing something so intensely and, you know, like noises come out and you burp and you vomit and you cry and there were some times like I thought she was going to pass out. There was one time where remember she was like all hunched over and she stood up and she said, I thought I was gonna puke. And I was like, I did too. I actually really thought that you were gonna throw up, because sometimes you're just clearing and it's so heavy. But I kind of naively thought that that was mostly done. Yesterday was something else. I'm still not entirely sure what I was clearing. I know we were clearing for the masculine collective. I had a session with, it was just a call. It wasn't even like a normal session. I just called Kimberly Hall. We had a video chat and to see what the update is, like what's happening in your neck of the woods, and it kind of informs everything else. So I check in with these people on a regular basis. And we were talking a little bit, and I thought we were just about to pretty much end the call, because like the first thing that I said almost when I got on the call is like, I basically don't have a lot to say. I just, going to check up and say, how are you doing? I thought it was going to be short. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know what to, I'm having a hard time talking about it because I'm still not entirely sure what it was. It seemed like a double level. It started out like, it seemed like it was clearing for the masculine collective, the divine masculine. And stuff was coming up, all kinds of stuff like shame and tremendous regret and guilt. And like when the darkest of, when you said suddenly realize that you've done something, or it was stuff that people had been trying to pretend that or think they could ignore this for a while, or like a really long time, like ever. And this stuff started to come up about having abandoned children and a disregarded, the feminine disregarding children, not honoring the sacredness of caring for the earth, whatever. It it started out broad, and I was actually much more comfortable with that sphere because I'm used to working, sorry, I've got like hair in my eye. I'm used to working with collective energy. And then it took some kind of turn, like I still don't quite understand what happened. You know how different psychics, like we don't all pull from the same area. Like in my personal view, like someone who's like a police psychic will pull their information from, if this is like the earth level, 3D, or the area of specificity, like somebody like a police psychic will be able to access information that's around this level. It's kind of like if collective consciousness is the ocean, someone like a police psychic can siphon energy from the area of the water that's very close to the ocean floor. And so they can get things like specific details or names and, you know, specific numbers, street addresses, images of things in the actual earth. And somebody who is, you know, more like a medium will access things that are much more in the strata of the fourth dimension. So that's why what allows them to access the energy of people who have passed, etc. And then somebody like me, and it's not a matter of better or worse, it just happens to be like where you can I don't know, I can't access any information from around the ocean floor. I've never done that before until yesterday. Usually, all of my information comes from like way up there. So it was very uncomfortable for me yesterday because all of a sudden, I accessed some of the darkest, most disturbing energy I've felt. It was very specific, and it felt like I don't watch anything ever, like real crime, true crime stories. You know, like that crap exists, but I don't watch it. I don't have familiarity with it, and apart from knowing that it exists, I don't go anywhere near it. But I wound up somehow yesterday clearing something that felt like a real event. It felt like something that actually happened. And I got very specific information about like a child who had been left. And I understand that it seemed like it was a specific event that if I cleared it, would clear for the collective, because that's always the way I work. But in this case, this person wasn't in front of me, and I don't know where they were. But I got this whole story about like a child who was 9 and was left alone in a house, and it was in Westchester, and I know exactly what it looked like, and I was shown the stairs, and you know, I can read objects, and I can read for some reason the way guides usually communicate with me. And it's funny, having been Joan of Arc, which is so terrain based, like earth location. It's so location based that my guides almost always show me a location, and then for some reason I just have this weird skill that I can read a location and know what it means. I can see like where the trees are, and this is the intersection, and I can see if there's a hill and a building, and for some reason it's an entire language. There's a language of location to me, and I just know what everything means. And they gave me this disgusting location. I was shown this house in Westchester with on a very, very, very steep hill, and there was a series of inclines, and this kid was left, and it was like somebody went away to work one day, and it was like leaving a dog in a crate, and never returning. And this was a child who was about 9, and there was also a baby, like somebody who wasn't walking yet, and like the parents left and something happened to the mother. I don't want to really get into it, but it was something about like the father leaving and getting distracted, and nobody ever came back. And then years later, there was something happened. Anyway, I began clearing for this particular energy that I think, and there was something about like evidence is not, somebody doesn't want evidence to be discovered. Like, I mean, this was such a new area of information for me. Even, it was shocking. It really shocked me. And I wound up clearing. I could feel it through my body, and it felt like somebody might have been, I don't know what the hell it was. It was like, I suddenly felt poisoned. And I've never, in all my years of clearing and clearing very heavy, very dark energy, I've never cleared anything that felt quite like this. Like, I immediately got a headache. I felt cold and I felt freezing and very hot at the same time. And I was shaking. This hand was shaking. And I felt really nauseous. And I got incredibly dizzy. And my heart was pounding. And it went on for hours. And I had to, and I started crying. I wound up taking a really quick shower because I was sweating. I started sweating, and it really felt like I was like poisoned, and I got really, really dizzy, and I couldn't see straight. I wound up laying down, but it went on for hours. And then it just suddenly stopped. And I did all the grounding stuff. I mean, for a while I was out of, not really out of my body. I was still unfortunately in it, but it was the most physical clearing I've ever felt. And it was very much connected to a specific pocket of energy in a place in Westchester, and I would know it if I saw it. I don't know what town, but it felt very much like, so this is how it relates to the collective, because I'm not just telling you this for me. It relates to the collective because if I look at this specific incident, if I generalize the information, because I know that it was related to the divine, it was related to the divine feminine, yes, and clearing for children because I'm always carrying the child energy jurisdiction. That's an energy that the group, I've done a tremendous amount of work, and I've been carrying that jurisdiction en masse for a really long time, since the Joan lifetime. But the way it relates to this group is that how do I want to say this? I was shown certain things that were coming up for the divine masculine, and this male figure that I was, who was, I don't want to say the perpetrator, even though he was kind of a perpetrator, but it was more like severe neglect is what we were looking at. And it was the ramifications of that. So I think it relates to the way the divine masculine has been absent, who like left. And this was, I was shown a specific story that happened to one person, where it happened to one child where the father left. And it may not even have been the father, but somebody in a caretaking role had left ostensibly to go to work, but they had gone off drinking with their friends afterward and then just got distracted and decided not to go home, that like the mother's going to take care of it, and really just wound up abandoning their responsibility, wound up prioritizing making money, and feeding egotistical things like working on their career or working to make more money, the person that I was looking at was almost certainly an alcoholic or had some sort of addictive tendency, but very much very narcissistic. But the word that kept coming up was like discounting or disregard. It was intense disregard for everything else in the world. Everyone else that was also this person's responsibility, but they didn't think so. This would be somebody who would like father a lot of children and then leave across the country and never take any responsibility for children. Or somebody who would, you know, stick the dog in a crate and leave and never come back. And meanwhile, this dog, it's like you were his entire life. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting, and every car that passes is like, is it him? It was like that. So this clearing yesterday was just horrendous. And the feeling that it had for the collective was that it's kind of like the divine masculine on a collective level. And I can see that I'm rocking now, so like the energy is running. It's kind of like I'm not saying for all divine masculines, but for this particular group, but I do think that there's a lot of them. For this particular group who were very, we'll say very asleep, really locked in there to the 3D programming. Left, forgot their mission, didn't return, and it's kind of like they knew about it, but they were they didn't want to be held accountable. Or what happened in this particular case that I remembered yesterday was, or that I got yesterday, was that somebody did know about it, but pretended they didn't know about it. Like they knew that they had left this child, but it was more comfortable to ignore it. And they seemed to be very influenced by their localized group of people that they were with, like drinking buddies or people from the office or people who admired whatever facade this person had created, this man had created. Like they think of him, they respect him. Like his position in the office, or they respect his authority. They don't think of him as a villain, so he doesn't. This person that I was dealing with yesterday as a symbol, they didn't know how to broach the it's almost like by the time guilt got the better of them, by the time the guilt got so severe, or like you know how like you might start to remember something and for a while you're able to just like suppress it, but after a while it gets like this feelings growing, and then you're like, yeah, I should probably get back to that. You know, I left the dog in a crate and I should probably go home. But after a while, it's kind of like this person thought, it began to dawn on them just how much they'd fucked up, like just how much they had avoided their serious responsibility. And in this particular case, the person suddenly, like, they wanted to go back to check, but then so much time had elapsed, they almost didn't even know how to do it. Like, what am I going to find when I get there? Is the mother, you know, in the case of a man having abandoned his family, it starts to dawn on him that, like, maybe he should get back to that. But then he doesn't even know, like, is the mother going to explode at me? Or did anybody even go back to check? Am I going to find, you know, a rotting corpse? What am I going to find? What do I do? And then there was also this thing, like, it's almost like this person had another family or people who were very invested in keeping him there, who had no idea, like other asleep people, who had no idea that this person even had this other life going on. And so the person that whose energy I was working with, the energy had sunk into the ground, this disgusting neglect, and there was very much energy of like addiction, and also there really was a lot about child imprisonment too. Like, we put you in a place, we didn't want to have to deal with you ever again, so we locked you in a room, and one day we forgot to feed you, and damn, was that months ago? It was like that. And so somebody was literally left and forgotten, and it was a child, and it was almost like a child watching another child, like a 9-year-old that was watching a baby. It was just horrendous. And then somebody didn't know how to undo it. Like the man who was like, well, do I wait for the cops to come find me, or, you know, maybe I should go back to check, but I don't want to get in trouble, and I can't report it without getting in trouble, and I can't leave my group of people and go find it because then I'm going to be caught. And it really felt like this has some relation to something that's actually happening with the Divine Masculine Collective. Almost like, shit, we had a mission, and I do remember it, but now how do I get out of where I am? And what am I going to find when I get there? And is the Divine Feminine going to be really, really mad? Am I going to be received? How's it going to go? And how do I do this? And there was also something in the thing yesterday, a really horrible image. It was a horrible image, but I was thinking afterward that it could be interpreted as a hopeful image. And I hope it was symbolic and not literal, because they showed me a picture of a not even a toddler. It was a child younger than, they weren't walking. This was a kid who could stand but hadn't like really taken their first steps, but was someone who could crawl well. It was a baby, and it was a little boy. And it was a child who had been neglected, but somehow the door was open. And this baby had actually crawled outside and was crawling up a hill of Pachysandra in Westchester toward a road. There was a road at the top, and then there was a steep hill of Pachysandra. And this kid had been crawling and crawled and was crawling on a lawn and then up a hill. But there was a road at the top. So I was really hoping that this was, it really feels like it's an actual place. And it feels like there was something like a crime that was committed there, and something's also buried. Something is buried there. Like, I know the spot, I could point to it. However, the thing with the baby going up the hill, I was actually thinking that it could be interpreted symbolically, because it was a little boy, of the Divine Masculine's inner child finally freeing itself from this horrendous house, this place where it was kept and unable to leave. But it finally got out. This boy finally got out and was crawling up a hill. So it relates to Ascension, and it was a hill of Pachysandra, or something like that. It was Pachysandra or something like it could have been periwinkle or something like that, but it was some kind of ground cover. And so it's kind of like crawling up through nature toward a road. I'm very much hoping it's a symbol and not something that actually occurred, although it feels like something that actually occurred. At any rate, the entire time I was getting these images, I was shaking and really feeling dizzy and getting hot and cold and crying and couldn't talk. Anyway, it was horrible. But the clearing, and it was interesting because Kimberly Hall said she was experiencing much the same thing. And we were both told, oh, another thing that came up with that, like the session with her yesterday was kind of divided into two sections. Before the childhood nightmare in Westchester, it started off to be more like a generalized clearing for the masculine collective. And while it was that, things kept coming up, which was about that the divine masculine, a lot of stuff was loosened, and I kept getting images of something like they need to drink a tremendous amount of water, like way more water. And what needed to flow, it was to promote flow. And then I was getting an image of like a body, or not a body bag, but like a body or a vessel, a physical vessel that was like a bag, that was filled with something like pine cones and Legos and sand. It was basically very gritty, but they were all loose components. Like it was the point that the point that was made in the spirit communication was that none of these things were attached any longer. So that was really important, because it was more like the divine masculine. And that also, we can extend that to the divine masculine energy in us as well, if you're one of the divine feminine. That we needed to, something needed to be like, there needed to be like a current that had a very emollient quality that also flushed out. Like it had to be a current of, I don't know, water or lubrication, something that really flushes. And to get everything to flow out, the point made, though, that it was all stuff that was extremely gritty and uncomfortable. Like you wouldn't want to be filled with pine cones and Legos and sand. None of it is smooth to purge. So the resistance, or the physical discomfort that was coming up was all stuff that the message contained, was that the divine masculine had detached from all of this pain, or wasn't attached to keeping it, put it that way. The attachment was gone, because all of these components were loose, and it was now just a matter of like throwing them up or somehow getting rid of them. So I feel like that's what I was doing yesterday for hours, and Kimberly Hall was doing it. And if you're listening to this transmission, you're free to volunteer to help the masculine collective purge some of this for the collective, because there's a lot of it. It was very much about the masculine. I'm running out of words to. Like, I almost said oversoul, but it's really not. It's not really an oversoul, but it's kind of like the masculine collective. The other thing that came up during the call with Kimberly, we were talking just, I think, a teeny bit. Was I talking with her about Rick Jewers? Maybe not. No, I don't think I was. It's somebody. We were talking about Rick Jewers and also Kimberly's twin, who was also a divine masculine, who was there aren't that many of them who are really awakened and actually stepped up kind of on schedule or on time early to take up the role. And those divine masculines who did step up like early, you know how like there have been such a huge wave of divine feminine counterparts who got there faster, and we've been clearing, been doing the work, and we've so many of us are just like waiting and waiting and waiting for the divine masculine. So a lot of the divine masculines who did wake up have had to carry way more than their fair share of the collective burden, in terms of like the number of people that they're catalyzing, and they've just carried more of the weight. It hasn't been equally distributed. And so a lot of the divine masculine, like this recently happened to Rick Jewers. And I don't want to talk a lot about it since I really wasn't following the story. I don't really know what happened. But I don't know the specifics of what happened there, but I can see the energetics of, I can see energy streams interacting around that situation around him. So from that standpoint, it makes a great deal of sense. I can see exactly why that would happen. He just got a bigger share of it because there just had not been, proportionally, there haven't been, there are a lot of divine masculines who delayed and didn't wake up or pretended it wasn't their job or whatever. They stayed asleep. So now it seems like, based on the thing that happened yesterday, it seems like there's a substantial group of divine masculines who have woken up to the degree that they do remember, and I don't even know if this is true of mine. They do remember, but they don't know how to get out of where they are now. Like, they almost, the feeling that I got yesterday was kind of like, what's the response going to be? Like, it's kind of like they're bracing themselves, waiting for a tower moment. That's really how I want to say it. They kind of have this sense of, there was this sense of impending doom, but there's also an eagerness to have it resolved. Like, I felt that too. It was very contradictory. I felt an underlying, like, I really want, I realize I left this too long, like a collective, like, oh shit, like, now what do I do? And now I have to, how do I explain this crazy crap to these people? And I'm trying to not accrue any more karma. And how do I deal with this family over here and the people at work, and how am I going to support myself? And what do I have to figure out? And I've been out of touch with this feminine for so long that I kind of don't know if she's going to blow a gasket when I show up again. And is she going to reject me? There was just all this stuff that came in. It was more than that. And there was kind of a wave of, like, I'm almost afraid to look at what I left in the trunk. Like, if I go back to that house, is everyone dead, or are the police going to be waiting for me? Has there been a manhunt? Something like that. Also, kind of like, have I been replaced? And oddly enough, there was I also felt this enormous wave coming from the masculine collective of, I felt like the love is returning, and I felt like huge amount of regret, huge amount of regret. Like, they recognize that wasn't right, and they don't know what to do now. So I did feel a willingness to, and I don't know who this relates to, so you're going to have to, whatever, you're going to have to all kind of reach into, use your own discernment and see if this is a message that would apply to whatever individual divine masculine you may be dealing with, or whatever aspect. But it did feel that way. And I also think that, there's no such thing as a coincidence. So missions are starting, and I know that there's a transmission going out from this. So if you're listening, I'll just repeat this for those of you who just joined. In this particular live stream, there's the transmission that's going out from me, which is the one that always comes out, and something's changing right now as I speak. Something's changing. There are individual codes coming down for each one of you that are individualized and specific for you. which is, and it's related all to your own individualized missions. Yes. Which you can start whether your masculine is with you or not. So there's an individual mission that we each step up into, that we're how am I saying this? Each one of us is called to step up into our individual missions. Thank you. As soon as we individually reach a place of balance within each one of us, balanced giving and receiving. Do you see how the energy just changed? Like I was talking about the Divine Masculine Collective before, but now the energy is coming in, and it's from a different stream, and it's coming in now much faster. It's so now we're talking about the individualized light codes that are personalized and being delivered. There's way more help here from it's from the collective, but it's also each one of you has a group of guides, and I am being used as a conduit to get these transmissions through to you. Oh, and also if you're listening to this now, you're also connected to this particular group. So I do ask, yes, this is different codes are coming in now. For this particular group, it has a collective intention, and they're also checking the connections. Remember I said we were establishing a network in 5 that has a particular quality of deliverance. There's a collectively we're working to deliver. We're both being delivered, and we are also the delivery system. So the group that's listening now, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, I also invite you to stretch out with your antenna and connect to all other ears who are hearing this come out of my mouth. It's very much like fire ants. So they're talking to me about the Ascension arc, the previous Joan of Arc template, which it has been dismantled, but we're now establishing a new group dynamic, a group template for the new way that that we're going to be functioning in 5. And it starts out going through the 11 gateway. You work with one other person who becomes your pair for a particular time while you're working with another individual on a particular task, because twin flame mission, there's an individual mission which happens, or individual personalized service which each person takes, because you become an 11 yourself. In order to go up through the 11 gateway, you have to balance the masculine and the feminine, and it comes going through the gateway requires a willingness to step up into a personalized degree of service. But then the vast majority of us, if you're going up at all, you can do much more than be in merely individualized service. That's a first step. But then what usually happens is that you begin to work with, you'll find somebody else to partner with for a specific task, and between the two of you, you'll have another divine partner, another mission. And if you're anything like me, you know, I'm working with Marie Therese on the financial system, or working with Kimberly Hall with the Twin Flame Collective. I'm working with Sarah Adams on all kinds of crap that doesn't have a word. It's all up in space, and it's very loose, and I don't even know what the hell to call it. It's kind of like the 5D network tree of abundance architecture for the prolific circulation of joy. The energy there is very non-linear, and so I have a harder time putting it into words, but it's very musical. And my own personalized mission is, it comes down very striated, but I'm a specialist in multidimensional harmonics, which is why I have the job that I have. I have this particular post. So you can do more than one job, more than two jobs. You can, and then what happens as you move up, after you have individualized missions with one other person, you begin to work in small groups who have a collective task, and then in larger groups who also have a collective task. And then the further up you go, the groups get larger and larger and larger. But then they can also be stacked. So it's possible for me to do the work the way I'm working now, which is on multiple small groups and several larger groups. And then as we continue to rise, the groups get larger and larger. And oddly enough, more and more specific. So if you continue to travel all the way up, you know, like if you go all the way up to the 12th dimension, all is one. And it gets very boring and there's like nothing else to do. So you wind up, I was talking to Maria Therese about this the other day. When you go all the way up, you experience all is one and everything is you. And it's so peaceful and so wonderful, but absolutely nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. So you wind up coming down again, usually like the 11th dimension is really, really nice because you're up there with like all these ascended masters. You have people to talk to, like your highest level guides, angelics, and like all the ascended masters. But there's stuff to do. It's like the God Squad, and there are people to talk to. So that's my favorite place to go. But different things happen in all of these different dimensions, on all of these different levels. Different tasks happen on each one. It's so interesting, and it always interests me. Like, I'm not really going to talk about this very much, but it always interests me that it's a little bit like an elevator, and I've noticed that there are certain. It's kind of like if it's a skyscraper, there are certain floors that I don't seem to have any business on. It's like it's not like I couldn't stop there. I seem to go past them though. Like I have stuff to do on 12, and I have a lot of stuff to do on 11, and I have stuff to do. A lot of stuff happens on 6, and a great deal happens on 5. I sometimes stop at 7, but I almost never go to 9. Never go to 10. Almost never. It's almost like I just don't have anything to do there. Like if it was a skyscraper or something in New York City. I used to have a relative who worked at a skyscraper, and there was just like, he worked on a high floor, and I never had any reason to stop at any of the middle floors, because it's just like, you know, like that's where something else happens. And it's just not my floor. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, we were talking about the masculine collective and what they have to purge. So there's been a lot of talk lately about how late the masculine collective is. Like, on one hand, there is no time, so we can't put it in that framework. And also, everyone's journey is what it is, so you can't be aware that there's that. You can't really call them late because you can only wake up as fast as you can wake up. So, and, you know, thinking of them as late or calling them wrong for being late, etc., is counterproductive, because it's only going to make them take longer. Because if you're high enough in dimension where you're creating things instantly, you have to be careful what you say. So if a whole bunch of high-level creators all focus on the fact that like something's wrong with the masculine collective and they're not waking up and they're all really late and we're all mad at them, That's counterproductive, so we can't do that. So the thing that I was working on yesterday, and here's how you can help. It becomes a very difficult thing to talk about, and even dicier when you talk about it in a live stream, because when you're talking about it in a live stream, you suddenly are you have to be cognizant of the fact that now you're talking to a group of people, so you're kind of dicking around with collective consciousness. Additionally, in a group of people who are probably in the light worker community and are therefore high enough in vibration that they're creating things faster. So there's an interplay of forces that you just need to be aware of when you deliver information of this kind, which is why when I'm talking about it, if you followed my live streams, you will often hear me say something like, I want you to hear this with ears of compassion, or I want to be able to deliver information, but I would like to, I want to kind of lay a couch for it so that when you hear it, you know, you don't jump into blame or something that creates an enemy, because that will be counterproductive. It's not going to help our group cause. It's just something that we need to really consider. So I want to talk about how to deal with the Divine Masculine Collective, but I would like you to hear it with ears that, in a way that doesn't create an enemy, or doesn't create them in a way that views them as having done something wrong, continuing to do something wrong, you know, etc. Because the Divine Masculine Collective kind of are running late. They are running late. They're running late. They're also, as a collective, they affect one another. So how does this relate to the price of beans? And what can we do about it? Like, on one hand, it's like anything else in the spiritual journey. There are always you can't pull on just one side of a rubber band, and both ends. We're dealing with dualistic forces, polarities, and what we're trying to do is come back toward the center. So viewing the other as even conceptualizing an other becomes its own issue. So many things on the spiritual path is about coming into wholeness, and part of being in wholeness is developing a skill set by which you can see the entirety of a situation in a very holistic way, and be able to hold more than one viewpoint at a time. How do I want to say this? You know how almost every deep spiritual truth, when you're on a spiritual journey, almost everything becomes a paradox. And a divine paradox is simultaneous, is such a me thing to say. It's simultaneously one of the most difficult things, the things that you like the least, but it's also where the most beauty is found. So it's also one of my favorite things. It's so strange. It's really like through the looking glass. So the Divine Masculine is late as a collective. The Divine Feminine's mad, but we also love them. The love is real. It never goes anywhere. But we're also pissed and we want them to show up. We all want to get on task. So the question really is, what can we do about it from the place where all is perfection and we need do nothing because it's all running perfectly. So all we have to do is hold space for it and allow it to come in. And at the same time, is there anything we can do like come on, let's go. Shift the alabaster. My grandmother used to say that. Shift the alabaster. Hello. I see you're here. I'd like you to leave. I know. Hi. So maybe don't do what I just did. I'm glad you're here, but I also want you to go away. Ain't that always the way? Speaking of divine paradox, here you are, talking about twin flame mission. My emotionally needy dog is here, and I want him to go lay down. I love you very much. I know you're cold. I can tell. I'm going to turn this. Yes? You have a message, I know. What do you want to say? You came over for this reason. I was talking about divine paradox. Yes? I'm not going to walk you right now. I'll do that afterward. Please go lie down. I'm going to turn this fan off. Hang on 1 second. Yeah. When I'm done with the live stream, then I will take you out. Yeah, it's true. In the meantime, you can show everyone your nose. Divine paradox. So what we can do to help them move forward, and there really is no them, like it's all one issue. It's all one big energetic issue. We're trying to, it helps if you don't, it helps to depersonalize it. And sometimes that's difficult to do because they are people. They're people that we know. Hello. Sometimes it's hard to detach from the idea of our twins as individual people. But it also might help. It might help a bit to recognize that as a collective, we're all one force. It's the interplay of competing forces that are, it's basically just two sides of the same thing. So one of the things that we can do to assist our twins in if that's something that you feel like you need to address, and a lot of people do. Now, I'm not saying it's for everybody. I'm not saying it's for everybody, and I almost don't even want to talk about twins at all. But I feel like after this clearing yesterday, it happened, and it came up for a reason. And what I felt was that there was so much clearing to be done there. And I feel like even though I'm trying to avoid the word don't, for one thing. I'm trying to avoid having any image in my head that the twin needs fixing, because that's not true. I'm also trying to avoid the issue that anybody needs to be saved, because that's not true. Having said that, the same way, I know that I've done a lot of clearing. I know that I know how much I needed help when it was my turn to go through that. I know that, would you stop that, please? I know that I don't want to take anyone's work from them that needs to be cleared from them, because that would be a tactical error and counterproductive. Everyone needs to develop their own strength. So bearing in mind all of these things, this entire array of considerations, and all of it needs to be taken into consideration. So that's why I'm saying, use your own discernment. But if you're someone who can clear for the collective, I do feel after yesterday that the masculine collective could probably use some assistance from the collective. So if you're somebody who feels like they could volunteer to assist with the flow, there is a way to do that. And the more the masculine collective can release, and it's about our masculine energies that we're carrying as well. So we're not, it's not ever about them. Like even in the 100 Years' War, which all goes back to galactic warfare. Like I do recognize, and it's no, you know, it just occurs to me that like I'm looking at the screen, and it occurs to me that I always seem to be at the goddamn center of these fucking opposing forces. And Joan of Arc, and I've got 3 hermit crabs, which are actually 2 of them are tipped over on their back. I might go assist them in a second. I don't think they can get up. And I've got a princess guinea pig in a cage, and it's a guinea pig princess. Granted, it's not her cage, but nothing's random. I do always seem to be I'm somehow a vibrational match for these gigantic stories of massive colliding forces that need to be somehow brought together, but they're in conflict. They're in constant conflict, but they need to be merged. And I understand that yes, I seem to be have this bizarre specialty ability of multidimensional harmonics, where we're talking about just gigantic collective energy that starts off in the galaxy, galactic warfare that finds its way onto a planet, and there are these wars that last 100 years, and I show up and they say, hey, see what you can do with this. Put this kid on the throne and see if you can see if you can manage armies. But it always comes down to the same thing. And oddly enough, it's always, the problems are always the same. The problems are always the same. Can you love the thing you hate without losing yourself? Like, that's the thing. It's always about how do you maintain your autonomy, your individual identity? How do you love yourself and preserve your own authenticity as an individual, and also preserve the identity of a specific group that also wants to preserve its identity and also coexist in a realm with this other individualized, collection of people who have their own belief system. They want to preserve their identity. And how do you all coexist? How do you love the thing you hate? That's basically spiritual paradox in a nutshell. Both things are true. Both points of view are true. And it's like there's nothing wrong with the other party. And yet you have to somehow find a way to peacefully coexist without telling them that they have to be exactly like you or do what you say. And ain't that always the goddamn trick? How do you find liberation? How do you find peace when somebody wants to oppress you? It usually involves some sort of division, some sort of I don't know, it's part of a larger conversation. I think at some point I'm going to come on and do a live stream that specifically just talks about battle tactics, because it's so strange. It's like battle tactics, it has a lot to do with a lot in common with orchestration. And oddly enough, it has a lot to do with mass migration. It all comes down, it's the same damn skill set. Orchestration is somehow the same skill set as migration is. And it has everything to do with war. You want to get out of war. You want to go from war to harmony. From a state of conflict, conflicting forces. And you want to take a bunch of conflicting forces, like all of these European forces. If you go back to the Joan of Arc lifetime, it wasn't just about the French and the English, although it was all about the French and the English. But there's also all sorts of Machiavellian man, nobody can fight like royal families. It's almost like they can't even find friends among their own family. Even the families battle, and there's no loyalty, and everybody backstabs everybody. It's funny, I want to use something like Game of Thrones as an analogy, except I've never watched it. I don't watch anything like that. My guides have said that I'm, unless my guides tell me to go watch something specifically on television, I don't watch television, but like specifically like a movie or something on Netflix, I usually don't. But if you've ever watched anything about, you know, like European monarchies, like that was real. And I know I was really, you know, I was really there. That was my real lifetime, my actual real lifetime. And I can tell you that sometime I'm going to wind up talking about certain things that I remember specifically from that lifetime. Like I remember one time they were, this isn't what I was going to talk about, but one time I remember they left me in a hallway because I wasn't actually blood royalty. I was like some kind of weird mascot, like kind of. They gave me certain privileges, but not others. But then even those privileges, when I got captured, didn't actually apply to me, and protocol was strictly observed, except where I was concerned, where they threw it out the window. But one time they were going to make a treaty, and there were a whole bunch of people who had come with entourages, and they all went into a room to they were trying to come up with some kind of a treaty which was obviously merely a postponing mechanism. It was some kind of a peace treaty which wasn't. It was a pretend, like everybody just lied. Everyone just freaking lied. And when they went into the room, number one, they made me stay in the hallway, which was a fucking error, but I could energetically feel what was going on. I stayed in the hallway. They basically dismissed me. They didn't want me in there at all because they knew that I would be vocal and speak. But even like I could read the energy fields of people who were going in, and I knew that the entire treaty from the get-go was a piece of crap. And the funky thing was that they knew it too. It's like they were all, it reminded me of like the way you would lace a shoe, like a Converse sneaker, which didn't exist then, but that's the way the energy was running. Like everybody was at cross purposes. Like, I'm going to lie to you and pretend to you and say something to you, but it's not going to be true. And everybody had a secondary or an underlying motive. And it was like triangulating or playing billiards. It was like all of this oblique, sinister communication where you pretend, you say that you're going to do something, but even as they sign the document, it's like, not really. We're only doing this because it's going to buy some time so that I can do this other fucked up shit behind your back. And meanwhile, all of the actual people who are in the trenches and doing the work, who are on the ground, who aren't being fed, the actual armies, the actual soldiers, nobody's eating. Or if they are eating, they're eating food that they stole, or just nothing is honest. And it's because the energetic platform was so corrupted. And it was even worse then than it is now. If you can imagine, it's even worse. We've cleaned it up a lot since then. But the overall energetic dynamics of any situation that's complicated has a lot to do with orchestration. When you get to the point of orchestrating actual harmonics, like if it's a piece of music, I had that whole lifetime, by far my preferred thing to work on, if it's not living systems. So the living system is actually my favorite thing to work on. But second to that is like a large piece of music for like chorus and orchestra and things like that. Getting each small group, to do its own thing, have its own line that it's going to play, and everybody's going to have its own line that they're playing, its own thing to do, but somehow they all make something beautiful together, and they're all going in the same direction, and you wind up making something that flows like a murmuration of starlings toward a collective goal. So it's very much like harmonic migration. And that's the way you make a large piece of music. By maintaining the integrity of every last instrument. It's the same skill set. An army requires the same kind of skill set. And then being able to do it with an army. So what we're doing in this lifetime, it's about, if I had to, this lifetime is, I could talk about it in basically like, there are sub-levels, but I would say it's basically like 3 or 4 main levels. The lowest level is still a battleground. And there's still a lot of polarity, and it's very much, you need to look at that the way a general looks at it. We're still talking about migrations, but the energy there is still very much in a state of war, and it's very much at odds with one another. So the harmony is not. There's no harmony in 3. We're not even anchored in 3 anymore. The problem that we're having in the what I'm referring to it as the 3rd dimension, even though the 3rd dimensional reality, we're not even anchored there anymore. But the reason people are still experiencing it is because the belief barrier is still so strong. And something's happening with my ears right now. They are the energies right now, as I'm discussing each individual topic, the reason for this call tonight, and this is something I was discussing with Maria Therese yesterday, as shifts are being made now, like this is real time. And there is no time, but this is real time. Like as I'm talking about all of these issues to you, things are being adjusted. And it's happening with each of you too, which is why if you're listening to this, you're on this call, you are playing a role in the tweaking of all of these. Oh yes, all of these energetic fields are being adjusted. I don't know if any of you could feel what just came in, but just as I said that, I got very dizzy, and this from here over, we're clearing something humongous. It has to do with the divine feminine, has to do with the divine feminine in lower dimensional frequencies, polarity. I thank you for your assistance in this clearing. Something that has been suppressed, oppressed, oh crap. We're back to this thing that, okay, I'm asking for your help now to clear. Hang on a minute, it's coming through. If you're listening to this now, I thank you for your help in clearing this. I may have to go get up and get a glass of water real quick because I forgot to pour myself one, but I think I'm going to need water. The energy that is being cleared right now is being cleared very strongly. I had no clue this was going to happen. This is being cleared very strongly from about here over. It's on the left, so that means it's female. It's in the past. They're showing me that same room from Westchester, so I really hope we're not going to go into another reprise of this. Clear, 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 clear. If any of you are able to flush the energy that is coming through, it wants to be cleared. We're clearing for imprisonment, anyone who couldn't get free, anyone who couldn't get out, anywhere where mothers, daughters, it's not only mothers, daughters too, it's children. Anyone who has been imprisoned in a system, they're showing me a storage room. They're showing me a storage room. Anyone who feels like they were disregarded, put in storage, this energy is now being cleared all of a sudden because the circumstance is ripe. We're not waiting for an appropriate time or any preparation. It is just coming forward to flowing to, hang on. It's almost like they're trying to tap pockets that are I'm losing linearity. Hang on. Just keep it going. Just keep it flushing. If any of you need can drink water while this is clearing, if you are willing to participate in the clearing, just ask that it come pouring forward. We're clearing on a massive level now. There's a group that's basically I can't talk. Hang on a second. If you're someone who can clear for the collective, I ask that you just open yourself up, let the floodgates open, and just have it come through, because we're clearing for the masculine collective. We're clearing for anyone who is not in a place where they can clear for themselves. It feels like something like Niagara Falls. Belinda, if you can help with any of this. Any of you who are mass transmuters who can clear a tremendous amount of energy, or actually any contribution. If you can, whatever you can clear, if you're willing to allow it, I ask for your participation. I don't know if you can feel that. It's huge, though. It's kind of like in this transmission, we're, and it's just going to keep flowing as I'm talking. This is the same place we were yesterday. They're showing me a storage room where children were held. This is clearing for the collective that has to do with the Vatican. They're showing me a cross on the ground. Something has been hidden. Something is buried. Truth has been buried. Ugh. Speech has been repressed. We're asking for the truth to come out. the truth to be revealed, voices lifted. Oh, crap. Oh, that's why he's here. Thank you, my emotional support dog. We're clearing for children who have been repressed. Children are being freed. I don't know if any of you are aware that the number of angels who are with us now who are helping. Ow. Every single it looks like ow, clear. It feels like a flood. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of souls. It feels like a flood of them are just flying out of the earth. And I'm feeling this in the back of my skull too. I'm seeing angels are like every single soul is being met with angelics who are lifting and clearing. There's also something there about children having helped other children. Children who have cared for one another when there was an absence of parental figures. I'm seeing a brother who, I don't know if this is any of you, I'm seeing a brother who, young brother, doesn't seem like a particularly nice child, but he had to, what the hell? He's pushing something, it looks like something, he has to watch his younger brother who has Down syndrome. And there's a certain amount of violence there too, and he's had to protect, but he himself is not actually a particularly nice kid. He's seen his share of hardship. Clear. It's all back in Westchester. What the hell is it with Westchester? I'm seeing a parochial school. This is all it looks like a community. Somehow this is they're showing me the same place in Westchester that I was yesterday, and it feels like it's a specific place, like it's an actual place, but if we can adjust the energy of the collective there, it has a very far-reaching ramifications for the collective. Like it's almost like we've moved. This is the way I said that when I work with an individual, it's functioning for a group, doing the same clearing for a group, but now I'm working with the collective that's here now on this call to shift for another collective that's making a shift for a way, 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 way larger collective. Like I feel like we're clearing for Rome. There's definitely something where we're clearing for imprisoned children that has to do with the Vatican, because I'm seeing a Catholic parochial school. I'm seeing imprisoned children in Westchester that had to do with it's like a public school too. There's a public school but it's much more like a parochial school and not an actual. It's not. It's. They say it's a public school, but they run it like a parochial school, and it's very Catholic and it's very, very repressed, and there's religious doctrine in there too. I don't know that much about Westchester, but it seems like this is a real place. Well, we're just going to clear it. So whatever comes up, it feels like the bulk of that past, it's going to keep running. So if you're on here for that call, I thank you for your help with that. The energy has changed very much now. It feels like a clog, like we had to like uncap something, or something was had to be released, like a boulder that was keeping something in place. But now that that's lifted, it's just going to continue to flow. The work as the energy is substantially different all of a sudden. As Maria Theresa and I were talking about the other day, the shifts, the shifts that we're going through now, the clearings seem to be like intense, short bursts of tasks that are done either with a pair or with a group. And I feel as though this is the way the work is going to go forward in the future, where we're no longer working as individuals as much, although that is certainly still working. It's more of an expansion where we're going to be working with individuals on tasks and also with small groups, with larger groups. And now the groups are beginning to interact as well. So what that means is that the transformation is happening faster and faster and faster. The transformation of the planet is going faster. So the way, going back to what we started talking about with the divine masculine, is that the way you can help them clear, if that's something you feel called to do, because I feel very much that in regarding this particular issue, don't do it if you don't feel specifically like it's something you feel called to do. We're doing a lot of work tonight, have you noticed? Sometimes it's just me talking, but in this particular stream, I want to get back to the divine missions of each of you, like you're being given individualized codes. There are several things that I'm going to be talking about. I guess this is going to be a long live stream. I don't know how long we are already, but there's much more information that's going to come in. And also, I'm very aware that I don't know if you can see it coming through me, or if you can witness any change in what's going on with me, but I'm very aware of it. Like right now, I can't see out of my left eye. Because the way heat rises off a pavement, when a lot of energy is being cleared through me, when I'm clearing for large groups, extra large groups of the collective, it feels to me like heat rises off a pavement. And right now, and it's very often feels like my guides or whatever, feels like they take off the top of my head. Like it's not just that my crown chakra opens, it opens so much that it feels like they take off the top of my head and stuff just pours in and out. Right now, it's just a lot is coming out. It feels like I'm clearing for the earth and also for population, but I'm also connecting to the energy of all of you who are listening on the call. And our energy is in a network so that we can clear collectively at this level. I'm also aware that we're having, so one of the things that's happening is that we're clearing, and I'm feeling it's a proportional thing. Like they're giving me a percentage of the energy. Energy is running in two directions right now. Some energy is being delivered to you, and these are the codes that are going to each individual listener as you're listening. They're light code upgrades, but also it feels like it stops about here. And this side is going out to you, but from about here over, it's all clearing. And as it's clearing, that's why I can't see out of this eye right now. It only looks like, it's very blurry, and it looks like heat is rising off a pavement. So I'm gonna just allow myself to be used for this process. And I thank you for your help if you're doing the same thing. It just means we're clearing a lot. Sometimes they just use me as a conduit. Most of the time, I'm just used as a conduit. Like a great, great big pipe. And they're shifting a tremendous amount, an unusually large amount of energy is being moved through me right now. And when I say me, I mean all of you who are listening as well. So I want to talk briefly about the codes that you're receiving right now. I love you. I just feel like saying that because I love you. I feel all of you right now. You're very nice. One thing that started to come in, several sessions ago, I'm not changing topic, I'm on the same topic. Several private sessions ago, something happened. I don't remember if it was Camille Ocho was the first one, but it happened a couple of times since then, and it's been sorry, what is on you? It's happened more, and now it's for the first time on this call, it's happening with a group of you, which I find heartening. A couple of sessions ago, it was several weeks actually, I had a session with somebody, and they were given the message, a message came through that they were now going to be, they were given codes specific to them, light codes, a transmission, whereby they were going to be used at now, they were stepping up a degree in service, where now instead of receiving, hang on a minute, I want to make sure I really get this message correct. Because some things happened that were particular to the individual, and I want to make sure that I'm not telling, if it's a message for the group, I'm a little bit confused because I'm foggy and I'm also dizzy because they're clearing a lot. I just want to make sure I get my information correctly. Okay, I'm going to say this. Each of you are getting information right now. Information's the wrong word, light codes. Hang on, I'm really paying attention to what the energy is running. It's doing something very specific. Like I'm feeling pulsing behind my eyes, and it's coming in a line down here. It's a little bit hard to concentrate. Hang on, bear with me. I know they want me to give you this specific information. I've never had energy come in this way before, so I'm just paying attention. It reminds me a little bit of, I don't knit, but it reminds me a little bit of knitting. There's something like, it's a movement. There's a movement. There's a repeated, a little bit like soft staccato, if that makes any sense. They're like soft pulses, but it's doing something. And there's a space in between. It looks a little bit like knitting, but with a space between stitches. I almost want to say like staples, except not metal. The energy has a softness to it, but it's coming in pulses, and these pulses are coming, they're going out to you. And this is something that is going to the collective. This is not the individual part. The individual part, the light codes that are coming to each of you individually, it's are upgrades that are, I have to be careful the way I say this, that are, and then I'm going to go back to what's happening with the group, because there's the reason I'm having a hard time phrasing this information is because there's a subgroup, like out of everybody listening right now, I can see, hang on a minute, please. I know you have to pee, but I want to finish talking to the people, and plus I'm dizzy, so I don't want to get up and talk to you right now. There's a group of you. There's everybody who's listening on the call right now, but then there's a about 60% of the group that's listening right now, I want to tell this other thing to. So I don't quite know how to organize that. They're different messages and they need to go to different people. So there's one collective. Hang on a minute, and then now it's shifting for the collective. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to call it in. I'm going to ask them to organize it. Right now, can you? Is this appropriate? Yes. So we're talking about. Hang on a minute, please wait. Is this something important? I'm extremely dizzy right now. I know you have to pee. I'm trying to figure out how to organize this. They're showing me shapes, and I also he needs to pee. Okay, hang on a minute. I don't even know how many people we have on this call right now, but I am seeing percentages. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. Hang on a minute. I'm going to go make some adjustments. What time is it? I'm going to leave this running because right now there's a transmission running right now on this live stream. There's a transmission running, and I'm getting the affirmation. I'm getting yes. They say yes. It's appropriate to take a break. So right now, let's do this. I'm going to take a 5-minute break so that I can get some water and walk the dog. It's 6:16 when we're taking a 5-minute break. I'm going to take a 5-minute break and come right back. You're going to continue to receive your transmissions. Certain people are going to leave off the call. And if you feel called to come back, there are more transmissions that are ready to be delivered to the people who come back. I would encourage, if you feel like coming back, it means you're in the group. Yes, they're giving me an affirmation. And they're showing me a white square. So that means that we're talking about we need certain other things. More information is going to come through about the divine masculine, but I need to get some water, and I'm going to go walk the dog, get some water, and come back here in 5 minutes. And then there's going to be other people who are coming on, and then I'm going to deliver the message that has to do with the individual light codes, what that's doing, as well as this other group that is about 60% of the other group, because they have a particular assignment and I need to talk specifically to them. So in the 5 minutes, there's going to be an adjustment. I'm aware that the guides are calling in other people who are going to join us at when we come back. It's like this call it's like we're going to go on an intermission, 5-minute intermission. And I'm just going to leave this running. And if you feel called to come back, that's because you're about to receive different light codes than the one you got before. Yeah. Okay. We're on the clock. I'll be right back. Okay. Who needs to pee? Who needs to pee? Who needs to pee? Come on. Oh, Pat. Come here. Go. Excuse me. Whoops. Hi. What do you know? Okay. Almost. Okay. Almost 1 second. Okay, I'm back. What happened to the light? Here we go. All right, we're back. So this is so funny. Sorry about that. I had to take a 5-minute break. That dog really had to pee. I feel bad. So, you know, when I first came on this live stream and I had Kenji, my snake, and then I turned him loose on the table and I said he was going to shed. This is what he did when we were talking. He took his whole skin off. One piece of skin. Isn't that cool? He's awesome. And I also called it. I said I put my pocketbook. He loves my pocketbook. And I turned him loose on the table. And I didn't want him to go anyplace else. Like I kind of wanted. He has been loose in the apartment a couple of times where I haven't known where he was. And it took me a little while to find him. And what I've discovered is that I can just put my purse down and he winds up finding my purse. He loves my pocketbook. So I put my purse on the table and sure enough, that's where he is. So he took his skin off and it's nice. It came off in one clean piece. I found that on the table. So it's a good thing I took that break. All right, where were we? If you're just joining us, this is a weird live stream. We're talking about divine assignments. More light codes are coming in. If you weren't with us earlier, in this transmission, something unusual is happening. Usually what's happening is I deliver an energetic transmission. And in this live stream, there's a new kind of transmission which is coming for each one of you if you're listening. and I had to get up to get water and something to eat because I was they're doing group work. I mean, all of our collective guides, like the connections. I know you're trying to steal food off the stove. This is why I always put you in the bedroom, because you really are a nuisance. You need to sit down. If you can't be quiet, I'm going to put you inside. There has to be at least 2 feet between us. Yeah. Go lie down. Tosh, go lie down. If you're not going to do it, if he doesn't do it, I'm going to put him in the bedroom. Ah, walk away. Nope. In he goes. Hang on. Come on, you. He really is clingy. Okay. 1 second. And now I need the fan on because I'm high maintenance. I'm high maintenance and it's hot. It's hot in here. Or actually what happens is just the energy starts to run and it gets very hot. So sorry about that. Back to business. So one thing that's happening is, like, I deliver my energetic transmission, and that's one thing. But then now what's coming in, I'm very aware of this, is that each of you have, if you're listening to this and you're willing to step up into divine service, if you're on the ascension path, thank you. There are incoming light codes that are individual for each one of you, orchestrated by your guides, tailor-made, for which you are ready. They're using the word ready. If you are ready to receive new codes, and most of you are, or you wouldn't be here, you're receiving new codes and they are running now. These new codes have to do with your divine, I want to say divine mission, but it has something to do like a new task or purpose. It's really much more like divine purpose, something that you're being asked to deliver, asked to do. It has to do with a task or job, a step, what's the word? Stepping up a degree in service. And these are enjoyable things. So most of these, also, for those of you who are wondering, because it feels to me like, it feels to me as though some of you are wondering or worried. It feels like I'm feeling a little bit of concern, like I don't know what my mission is. You don't have to. So the thing that we're being asked to do is the same way that I deliver an energetic transmission. As we go up in dimension, each one of us does. I'm in no way unique in this. So as we go up in vibrational frequency, as we go up in dimension, everyone delivers a transmission, an energetic transmission. So hang on. I feel as though they're showing me the thing that I said about Walmart. Like, I think I put this on another live stream, but for those of you who didn't hear it, I will tell you this story very briefly, because just by way of an example, because this is the way it works. Several years ago, in probably 2015, maybe, one time my guides actually, I was getting ready to go to bed. I was in bed, and it was late at night. It was like 10:30, 11, and my guides told me that I had to go to Walmart. And I didn't want to. I had no money. I didn't want to go to Walmart. I was in bed. I was in a nightgown, and I didn't want to go to Walmart. I didn't want to go out. And my guide said, you have to go. It was very strongly, I was woke, basically strongly urged to go right then. And I did, because I listened to guides. And I didn't have anything to buy. And plus it was Walmart, but I went, and I wound up just getting a cart and pushing it around for a while. And I saw a woman and a toddler, very irritated mother and very irritable toddler. And I wound up kind of seeing them throughout the store a couple of times, and I didn't interact with them. I didn't speak to anybody. I was merely in their vicinity. And I was probably in the store a total of 45 minutes. And then my guide said, okay, you can go. And I drove home. And I said, what was that all about? And they said the toddler was very cranky. The mother was very irritable. And there was going to be some sort of an episode. I don't know what the episode was. But I deliver an energetic transmission. I happen to be very good at not being triggered by tantrum throwing toddlers. I used to be a preschool teacher, and it was like a specialty skill where it just really doesn't bother me. I actually get very calm, and I don't mind it at all. I actually think it's kind of adorable when they do that. Sometimes it's a pain in the neck, but whatever. It just doesn't trigger me. And because I emit this frequency, I changed the energy of that episode just by virtue of my presence. And as we go up in frequency and dimension, things work this way more and more and more. Not only is everybody else, whether they're awakened or not, they're more sensitive to the frequencies that we deliver, so they respond faster. That's really good. But also the energy that we emit becomes stronger. That's happening as well. So our impact is increased by a lot. The impact we can have on the world, the effect we have on our surroundings is increased as we grow spiritually, as we get rid of the denser crap that we've been carrying, that we were, the old programming, the conditioning, the matrix, any place we had that embedded. As we release it, the energetic flow is such that we just connect with our environment more, and we have a greater effect on it, and it affects us less. However, for the sleepers or people who are on a lower frequency, we can affect their reality in a much more intense way. So we're called, and it comes with a greater degree of responsibility, which you basically have to have. If you're, as you rise in spiritual vibration, you have a responsibility to be a wise steward of more and more and more. Hence the new light codes that you're being delivered, that are coming to you right now. So what happens is that these new light codes, some of them are collective and you're getting them as a group, and some of them are individualized to you. So for those of you who kind of feel like, well, I don't know what my mission is, not everybody has to have a targeted, a mission can be very specific and long-term. There are some people who come in, like I've got one of those. But then some other missions are quite variable, and like certain people need to travel. I was talking to Marie-Therese yesterday about that. That certain jobs only last a day, or you're told to go something and do something for a day, and the only thing you have to do is show up, have your energy affect something that needed you for a minute, like me going to Walmart. I was there for 45 minutes and I left. It's just like that. So more and more people are being called into this kind of position, this kind of service. And if you're listening to this, that's you. You're being gifted, delivered some frequency that is, they're doing something. Same energy that came in before. There's something aligned, something being aligned, light is being aligned. There's something that is being individuated. There is some issue that we're dealing with in this particular transmission that has to do with the relationship between the individual and the group. Because there's a collective frequency that's being delivered to this group, if you're listening. There is some frequency that is going out to this group through, let me rephrase that, through this group that is going to be, you're going to be asked to go and carry this wherever you go. So one message that comes in with that is that there are no wrong turns. So if your GPS takes you someplace and it turns out that this happened to me one time too. My GPS took me someplace, told me that I was in the right location and I was nowhere near it. And I had to park and figure out where I was. I had to make a couple of phone calls and say, this is not it. And then I realized that my GPS had actually routed me. It was a place in Newburgh. It was nowhere near where I was going. But it was a terrible location in Newburgh. And I was like, this is disgusting. This area of the city is horrible. And the information was like, yeah, but they need your energy right there, right now. Because people like you don't usually go to places like this, which is why we sent you in the wrong direction. You know, you had to, and I had to sit there for, it was around a half an hour or a little over a half an hour trying to figure out where I was supposed to actually be. And it took me a while, but it was a necessary degree of time that I had to just sit there and radiate this frequency in order to make a shift in a certain location. So there are no wrong turns. I started to say this earlier, and I think I cut myself off. I had a session with somebody a while ago, and the information that came in from her, for her, is now coming for a group of you. It's not coming in for everybody. And this is important. It's coming in, and this is, I'm getting this weird. Okay, I can't say all of it because it's not for everybody, but there's a certain, not everything that she got is being given to you. It's not my decision. I'm just trying to figure out what they're talking about. There's a new, how do I want to say it? I was going to say a new assignment, but it's actually a, and I want to move this over. There's a group of you. I feel like maybe it's not even important how many of you it's going to, but I can see it. I'm having a hard time putting a number on it, but maybe I don't need to. It's going to go to whoever it needs to go to. Yes. So, how do I say this? Help, help, help. Because my head's still really dizzy. They're doing something around here, and it has, for those of you who missed it, they're clearing, energy is being cleared for the collective at the same time that something is being delivered to the group of you who are watching. So, okay, so this is the thing they say to do next. And I'm going to use the same example as an example that I used when I was talking to her. It's funny, all the shapes changed. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure, hang on a second. There is a group of you who are being given it's like a divine task, but it's a gift. It's a specific gift that's going out, a gift, assignment, divine assignment. There's a certain upgrade. It's an upgrade. Yes, thank you. There's an upgraded assignment. It really is a gift. Like, this is a great one. I love it. Like, I know I do this. I've had this thing for a while, and it's one of my very favorite things to do. This is great. It's not going to, oh God, I don't like to deliver this information. It's not, how do I say this? God damn it. It's not all of you who are listening are getting this particular thing. I'm going to deliver something. I prefer it. My own personal preference is that when I deliver information to the group, to all of you who are listening, it's going to all of you. But I'm about to deliver you this particular information. It's going to a group of you who are listening right now. It's not going to absolutely every. So hang on a second. There's like a subsection. I feel as though about 3/4 of you are being given this gift. And I don't like competition, and I don't like jealousy, and let me rephrase that. Okay, thank you. I would ask that you hear this, that what's about to come through. I would ask, thank you, that you hear this with ears of cooperation. They're showing me something like a slipper. It looks like Cinderella's slipper, which is a weird analogy. I'm trying to avoid using the word don't. Please hear the, okay, thank you. Thank you. That was what I wanted. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'm about to tell you, information is coming through that 3/4 of you are ready to receive now, and the other people, if you're not ready to receive this at this time, it will be available to you as soon as you are ready. You're in preparation for it. Thank you. Thank you. That feels much, much better. So please hear it with ears of eager anticipation. In the energy of eager anticipation and stepping up into increased service, you are about to be delivered. I love this. You are about to be delivered as a group. Oh, that feels much perkier. Do you feel that? That's much, much better. Yes. I had to get the resistance out of the way. It was torquey for a minute. I like it. So there's a divine task. There's a gift. There's it's a magical ability. It's a magical skill. And I've had this for a while. It's awesome. I love it. And it's been coming through more and more. Like a couple of weeks ago, this came in for somebody that I had a session with, and I was so delighted because I've had this for a long time. Like, it's what, you know how like sometimes you just know you have a certain magical ability. But it has to be wielded very responsibly. This is one thing I can say before I tell you even what it is. I will tell you that with this particular thing, you will not be allowed to misuse it. You won't be. I think that if this is reaching your ears, the likelihood is that you would not misuse it. Like the energy that I'm feeling from the group now, and just because what I know about what is coming in, what's going to be delivered, you're actually already receiving it, but I haven't told you what it is yet. So you won't know how to apply it. You won't know that you have it. So I have to tell you what it is. But first, I want to make sure I lay a platform for it, or lay a couch for it, so that you'll know what it is, because it also comes with, like anything else, when your vibration goes up, it comes with increased stewardship. So you need to be wiser. You need to be wiser. You need to step up and have increased, expanded benevolence. Better judgment, but less judgment. That's important. And you need to be careful the way you hear it. The way you hear it, the way you receive it. Because it's one of those things, like, you're not going to be allowed to misuse it. The danger, I almost never use that word. Risk, the susceptibility. I can say that you won't be allowed to misuse this power, but the reason it could prove somewhat hazardous is not to anything external, but it would be because it would, if you misuse it, it will screw up your own integrity, and that will take you down. So be careful. Be careful. You need to be wise and be a good steward of others, and make sure that you don't turn it toward anything remotely manipulative. Because when you hear it, and I am about to tell you what it is, when you hear it, it sounds like it could be seen through a lower lens to be kind of a manipulative thing, but it's not. And you're also not going to be allowed to use it that way. Even if you had that inclination, you won't be allowed to use it. Nonetheless, if you try, it won't have an effect outside. It won't have an effect on anything external that you, it's like, kind of like if you imagine black magic. It works, it's not black magic at all, but it functions the same way, that kind of like if you were to try to apply it out there and get something to happen out there with this new frequency or this new gift, not only would you would not be able to use it that way, but it would screw you up, and you would immediately lose the capacity to even have it. So there, and it would take down your own frequency. So it's one of those things that you really need to do. You really need to watch it. Pay very close attention to number one, whether you want it. If you're somebody who doesn't want, not everybody does. A lot of people say that, and I'm actually thinking of some specific people who would say that they would want it. Or like, I know somebody who said for years and years that she wanted to be a philanthropist. She really wanted to win the lottery because she would do X, Y, Z, this. I would do this and this and this for you, or for all these other people. But then when she got a lump sum of money, that's not what she did. And I've seen this happen repeatedly with a lot of people. They say they want responsibility. They kind of wish the problem would be solved. They want to be, but if they were given all these ingredients to do it, would you actually do it? And a lot of them don't. There's a certain, it comes with a caveat. There's a certain responsibility. When you're actually given the job, do you actually want to have that job? It's kind of like, it's a massive difference between holding somebody else's baby and saying, oh, I love a baby, and actually wanting to have the baby. Huge difference there. Some of us actually want a baby, and those are the ones who should be parents. The other ones should just hold a baby once in a while and pass it back to the actual mother. So in this moment, you're being offered, that's the way I wanted to say it, you're being offered a gift of a frequency upgrade. And it's coming in, but it's I haven't even told you what it is yet. So before there's like this resounding yes, it also comes with increased responsibility, and you need to be a wise steward of others. So you need to think more about the ramifications of what you create. So this, I should tell you what it is. how do I want to say it? There's a help. That's not the message. I'm trying to, I want them to, there's a way that energy comes in, and there's a way that inspiration to act and inspiration toward creative projects comes in. There's a certain gift that is being delivered to a group of people that I've had for a long time, which is we can call in, once you have reached a certain level of benevolent service, which is consistent, that's a really important part. I'm going to say that again because I really want to make sure you heard that particular part. Once you have reached a level of consistent spiritual service where you have basically you have a track record of being responsible and doing your internal work and keeping yourself accountable for your actions and maintaining a clean vessel. Once you have that clean track record, you are kind of upgraded in terms of service, and you're offered these new frequencies which are coming into a group of you if you're listening. This particular group that are being called into service, which is different from the individual frequencies, I might say. Like everybody, if you're on this call, you're getting individual frequencies that you are going to be called to transmit these wherever you go. But that's a different task from this particular group that I'm talking about, which is only being given to some of you, and the rest of you, if you're hearing this, you have that potential, should you want it, at some point in the future, you'll be ready to receive it then. So there should be no room for jealousy at all. The gift that is potentially yours to take, should you choose it, to wield it correctly, wisely, with benevolence, is that of inspiring others to take action is that of inspiring others to take action in the world, so that, for example, it's easier if I just tell you what give you an example. The way inspiration works is that some people, there's like a level of people who are kind of like sleepers or just beginning to awaken, and before you really have developed, before you've cleared up all of your crap, before you've really become when you're newly on the spiritual journey, or if you're not in a spiritual journey either, maybe you're just, Joe Schmo walking around and you're still more or less in sheep mind. The way inspiration works is that you don't necessarily have a lot of ideas yourself, and you're not really in sovereignty. So somebody who is more or less a sheep and kind of still in the matrix wanders around like wishing to be inspired to do something. And there's a certain mindset that allows itself, we're still dealing with free choice, so we're not trying to take over anybody's mind at all. That's not the thing. But there is a certain state of mind that a large section of the population is still in, where their minds are open to being programmed because that's what they have chosen. They have chosen to just kind of let somebody else make their decisions, and they kind of wander around slightly aimless, and they're kind of looking for something to do. They're still kind of in group mind. And when your vibrational frequency goes up and you become sovereign, there's a certain bandwidth where you develop the ability to transmit your intention to other people who have lower frequencies. And in such a benevolent state, from a position of responsible authority, you're stepping into a position of guide, or like dominant tuning fork. There you go. Dominant tuning fork, where you can actually, this is the frequency that is being offered to you, to this group of you. You can intend for something to happen, and because you've trained your mind and you're carrying a pristine frequency, if you have a clear vision of something that you want to have happen, you no longer have to be the one on the ground to do it. You could simply have a strong intention that something be done, and somebody else in the vicinity is going to pick it up, think it's their own idea, and go do that job. So this is very much a sacred task that a group of us is stepping into if you've done your own work and you've purified yourself to the degree that you're now holding you're stepping into the stewardship of more and more, and you're now guiding a group of people in the populace who have agreed, usually not from a conscious place because they're basically still asleep, but they are where they are. And if the light side doesn't steer them, the dark side is going to steer them. So that's why it's actually fair. In the level of polarity, where polarity still exists, there's really a shitload of people that are still down there. So the way I don't want to use the word war here. There's a pull in both directions. There's a competition between light forces and dark forces to see who can get more of the agreement from the population. Who's the sleepers? The sleepers are really the ones who have not yet found themselves sovereign. It's our goal to get everyone sovereign. Everyone who wants to be sovereign, have them be sovereign. That's the goal. But a lot of them, as all of you probably know if you're listening to this, this is very much a process. It's not an easy process. So there's a way to assist people in getting themselves out by leading them and delivering an energetic frequency that guides people and steers them in a way that does not disempower them. That's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to guide them and steer them, and at the same time have them maintain as much of their own authority as possible, but a lot of them have not yet reached that level. So the Tina Hand, I'm glad to see you're here. We're talking about a frequency, a gift of frequency that is coming in for a group of people, and I'm so glad you just joined. So here's an example. An example of this would be if you're in this level where you've done the vast majority of your clearing work, or you've done enough of your clearing work, and you're in a place where you're holding yourself in a position of consistent, reliable service all the time, wise, benevolent stewardship of populations and the environment, and your mind is trained so that you're seeing how improvements could be made everywhere. I'm sure would find yourself in the position where you're walking through the world and you see all sorts of, you can clearly identify from a place of emotional neutrality. That's important. From a position of emotional neutrality, you can clearly see problems or areas that could easily be improved and should. So the gift that is coming in, and I'm going to give you the example that I used the other day with, I can't remember which session it was in. Anyway, I said, this is the thing that's coming in for her, and now it's for you. let's say you find yourself in a neighborhood and you're out walking someplace and you carry this very strong vibrational frequency. You could say, boy, there's a lot of plastic on this beach. I think it would be a great idea if a Boy Scout troop came and they cleaned up this beach as a project. It would be a great idea for this to happen and this to happen and this to happen. And when the beach is done, I think that this whole area should be planted with tulips. And the magical ability is that you could just picture this very, very clearly in your mind. And this new gift is that somebody out there is going to pick up that and they're going to go do it. So in one level, if you're not cautious, if you let your mind meander, that could be seen as something that could be turned toward manipulation, which is not what we want. Let me rephrase that because I'm trying not to use the, I'm trying to avoid the word not. We're trying to do things in the most benevolent way possible without manipulation. On the other hand, we want to responsibly steer the population to promote the highest change in the world. So the gift of this new frequency is almost like a magic wand where you can, very much so, it's not even like a magic wand, it's like a magic wand finger, like a laser beam of thought, where you could say, I think it would really be great if this whole area had birdhouses, and why doesn't some classroom come and do XYZ? And pring, and you just, it's kind of like, you don't have to use your finger, although that'd be cool. You could do that. I've got a selenite wand, and I always call that my magic wand, but really you can just do it with your mind. And you can have the idea, and you'll be surprised at how fast this actually works. Like if you are somebody who stays in like a locale, you could say, I wish the place looked like this. And you know how most of us who are in this position have gone through our lives doing things like, this place has too much garbage, and while you're passing, you just pick up the shit. You wipe the baby's mouth, and you pass an old person who's slumped in their wheelchair drooling, you wipe them up. You pick up the dog shit, even though your dog didn't do it. You just do the work. The process of ascension, and this also goes for everybody who's moving out of their previous level of service, and in order to kind of leave space. It's kind of weird because it's not like there's actually competition. But for example, we're all moving to our highest degree of service, our next highest level of service. So not everybody is wise enough to know exactly, kind of like what should happen, or think in those terms. So people who wouldn't be able to clearly see what should happen to bring something up to a higher vibration in the environment. If those people are not getting these new frequencies, there's actually it's a magical ability. It's a restoration. That's what I want to say. It's a restoration of an ability. And at some point, more and more and more people are going to have this ability, and fewer people are going to be, the ones kind of doing the legwork. But right now, what we need in terms of structuring the masses, because I work a lot in migrations and orchestrating groups to work with other groups. How are groups going to work with other groups? And the way this is happening is that this group right now is being given frequencies, kind of a magical ability that you will be able to track if you bother. The way to track it is, for example, if just watch to see if your idea is quickly taken up and done by somebody else. That's not to say that you have to stop and, stop picking up garbage where you see it, or stop whatever your service was. But your individual service is going to be upgraded to working with groups. That's really what's happening. We need all the people who are ready to step up to working with groups. And that's why, if you're somebody who can see the problem in an environment, you're being given the energetic jurisdiction of some group that it's really not up to you to identify. You can actually safely leave that up to your higher self and the higher self of whoever. Throw that up into the quantum field and say, I think that this this area of town looks terrible. Somebody needs to fill the potholes, and somebody needs to paint these buildings, and somebody needs to take a weed whacker to all this stuff. So if you're anything like me, you would say, in the past, well, I'm going to be the one to do that. And then you would go and do it. But what's happening is that there were fewer and fewer and fewer. There were too few of us to do all of the legwork. And also, what happened in the past was that a lot of us were very, very overworked because we were doing all the work on the ground, and a lot of the other people, kind of the sheep, who always thought that somebody else was going to take care of it, so they did nothing. So we're trying to create an entire change in all of society, and one of the ways that we're doing it is we're having, I don't know, I'm lacking a term for this. I'm lacking it. I want to say something like small commanders. That sounds kind of crappy. I don't mean it to sound dogmatic, but I mean something like smaller commanders. We need more people who step up in service, and the way they step up into service is to intend that something happen, and instead of stepping in to necessarily do all of the work themselves, you're being gifted with the divine responsibility. It's a magical gift where, just to reiterate it, you are going to be able to say, I think a Boy Scout troop or a classroom or a group of people should organize something, and they should come and clean up this beach, or plant the tulips along the meridian, or plant fruit trees along the sidewalk, or paint the houses in this community. You name it. Basically, that's really it. You name it. The magical ability is that, I should say the way to use it, if you think that you're one of the people who wants this responsibility, you're still going to be picking up, individual pieces, only it's not going to be all on your shoulders. Basically, you're going to model the behavior, and everybody else that you're going to watch. If you're one of these people who really wants this thing, you're going to be able to watch it work pretty quickly. Like, usually in my experience, it's usually not more than about a week goes by. I'm practiced at it. I've been doing it for a really long time, where I want something to happen. I want a positive change to happen in the world. And I can literally drive through, a shit neighborhood and take a look at a house and say, I want that house to be filled with a family who takes in like 6 foster kids or something like that. And a couple of weeks later, or, it depends on how big the project is, but something happens where I can visualize a positive intent, visualize it very strongly, and bingo, it turns. And I'm not the one who I can't adopt all the foster kids. I can't adopt all the babies I want to, but it really comes from the strength of your emotion and the purity of your intent. And you really need to understand that part. What it takes to make the magic happen, you are being given the opportunity to step up in this degree of service, but you have to have a very strong, number one, it must be heartfelt. It has to come from your heart. It has to be very, very strong. And it has to be pure. It has to be benevolent, and it has to be in service to others. And you can't be very attached to having it come out your own way. And yet, the purity of your intent, it's very much like like in passing, when you put love on something and you get it to grow. And I'm totally serious. That's the way it works. Like, I love, you're driving by and you say, I love that mulberry tree. I love that mulberry tree. I wish that there were 6 more mulberry trees in this very spot. And it's not going to be more than one season before they're all there. Not everyone is granted, or let me rephrase that. Not everyone is, not everyone at this time has the capacity or is ready to carry this set of divine frequencies. It's not a single thing. It's very much the thing that, it's also not been introduced to the general population because there is a potential for misuse. Usually out of people who wish something, but it would be clumsy and ham-fisted. The only thing you're going to be allowed to utilize this for is something that is in harmony or is in alignment with the divine template. Yes, put it that way. That's what I wanted to say. So, for example, let me be careful with my example. For example, you could use this ability to do anything, almost anything with nature. Nature responds extremely well to this because that's the way nature works. You could say something like, it works a lot like amplified prayer. It works a lot like almost like group prayer. But what it has is, it has group energy attached to, like held by the individual. So you can either use group energy to pull something toward you if you want to hold on to it and do a task yourself. You can do that. That's very much like that's very much like what it is. Like if I was going to go to the beach and I know that the beach is covered with plastic, and I know that if I went to the beach, I would spend my entire day picking up garbage. I'm still going to pick up garbage, but when I go to the beach, a whole bunch of other people are going to pick up garbage too because I started it. That's basically what's going to happen. It's also, you can also use it in a way that you have to be a little careful. You could drive through you have to be careful if you're using it with something that's not, that's more industrial, or if it's not organic. It responds well to something that is organic. You might find you have to be more cautious yourself with your intention as to where you apply it. If, for example, if you went through like an area like in Sullivan County where it's just miles of abandoned businesses and the whole county's dead, you could safely wish for an invigorated community. I would be careful if you being too specific. If you say something like, let me rephrase that. That's going in the wrong direction. Hang on. I was going to say be careful being too specific, but in certain circumstances you could do it. I guess just use your discernment. I was going to say be careful of like pointing to a building and saying that should be a bowling alley. But you could say something like, it would be nice if there were more family-oriented businesses in this area, such as a bowling alley, a movie theater, a gym, etc. Once you're in practice, you're going to be able to watch things happen under your, they're doing something at the back of my head, under your stewardship, guidance. the more you repeat it, the more you think about it, obviously the faster it's going to be. But this is actually a magical ability that you're actually going to be able to point to things, and it's very much like, I wish the flowers would bloom faster. And you're going to be able to have other people suddenly get that idea that you had and do something that you wished would happen. And it's going to pick up speed. This is actually part of a delivery system. The way we're getting divine service out to more people who have not necessarily been on a spiritual path. We're leading them energetically, pulling them, guiding them, and it's very much the way, like I said that an energy stream that I started was responsible for Disney from the Joan of Arc lifetime, where I thought very, very, very hard about loving a mouse when I was in prison, and I was in tremendous pain, and I was looking for some way to stay positive, and I was focused on anything to love and anything to talk to, because I was all alone. It was all horrible, and I was focusing on, there were several mice, and they would come out periodically, and I would focus very, very hard on loving them. And I built, because of the energy of the time, and I was in this network and in the energetic construct, the energetic system was such that I focused so hard on loving this mouse and getting free and all uplifting for the children. It started an energy stream. It created an energy stream that led directly to Walt Disney creating the Disney Empire. Your thoughts are increasingly creative as you go higher up. But you have to be very careful, because once you're in that energy stream or in that strata where your thoughts and your emotions create so suddenly, it warrants caution. It warrants caution. So not everybody wants it. It's not like, whoa, we have a new toy. You do have a new toy. Be careful. That's not to inspire fear, obviously. You just have to, it's stepping up into a higher level of service. And a lot of people don't actually want it. You know, it's like when this person finally got some money, she didn't do what she said she was going to do. She actually put it towards, and actually I know two people who did that, who manifested, who were given large, like a small sum, like around $30,000, but and one person spent it well and one person didn't. That's my own judgment. But they, one person, the person that I said, who said she wanted to be a philanthropist for years, when she had the opportunity to go in that direction, said no every single, her words said one thing, but her actions all did another thing. And this person's, and you have to really know where your energy is actually. It requires a degree of real scrutiny and self-inventory. It's important. So what else was I going to talk about before I get off this live stream? There was something. I was going to talk more about things that have been happening with Maria Therese. I wasn't going to talk about her story, but there was something that we were talking about with her. I think I touched on it earlier in the live stream. I was talking about when your guides disappear. It feels a lot as you go up in frequency, you reach a level at the very top where your guides seem to vanish. They don't actually, but they seem to vanish. And the reason that happens is because there is a level where all of your guides are no longer, nothing is external anymore. You no longer have anything that is external because it's all you. When we talk about all being one, think about the experience of that. When you really, really fully integrate the truth of that and you experience that as truth, one, it can feel incredibly lonely. For one thing, it's not like, oh, my departed loved ones, or I'm up with spirit. There's nothing but you. You are every object. You experience everything as an extension of yourself. And that's why most people don't stay very much at the top. They come down a little ways at least, because at least then you've got other people to talk to, and you can kind of, you know, like I'm saying, triangulate data. But I've noticed there was a period in my own spiritual journey where for a time I was counseling people who had like recently lost loved ones, and I'm not really a medium, but sometimes I see dead people, but there for a time I was working with people who whose loved ones had recently passed, and I've gone through that for a time. And one thing I noticed, since I can tell where energy is coming from, one of two things is likely, typically happens. I'm not saying it's this way in every case. Yes, there are tons of variables. My own father being one of them. But one of two things typically happens. Sometimes when somebody loses, like I know a man who lost his wife. He extremely close to his wife, extremely close. They were together constantly. I don't think they were twin flames, but they were a very long-standing, long-married couple. And she died. And when she died, he thought he was looking everywhere for her, and he went to several different mediums, and he couldn't find her. But he kept feeling, he did feel a couple times like he felt her on the bed in back of him, like spooning him. And but he was looking for her, is the point. He thought that was neat. He was looking for her. He was like, where'd she go? And what I found when I kind of felt around in the energy is that his wife was so close to him. The reason he could no longer see he couldn't find her in spirit is because she was actually so close that it was like she was behind his eyes. She had actually gone into him to such a degree that that she wasn't anywhere else. She was inside. It's kind of like the way we are with our twins. You can't find them because you're looking for them, and so they're not there because they're already in there, and they are looking out your eyes too. It's like you can't look at, whatever. So that's one thing that can happen. The other thing that can happen is that you can see, you can have a visitation with like a ghost or something. At any rate, there comes a point in our spiritual development where we go so high we incorporate all of our guides, so that we no longer have any. We lose our guides. The guides are still there. It's just that we've incorporated all of our aspects. So now that there's nobody left, and then it feels very isolating. Like, where the hell did everybody go? I used to have guides, and I have no more clairaudience, and I can't hear any other voices, and it feels like I'm all alone. That can happen. And really, that's a period of development where you're just getting wiser, and you're becoming more sovereign. And what you relied on for external, triangulation of data or external validation, it's all you. So it's just another stage in your own development, your own spiritual maturity. So that's also happening. Also, as we go up in light body, one of the things that's happening is we no longer have divided chakras the way we had in third dimension. We can still utilize that as a framework to talk about it, but because it kind of helps to understand it in terms of a linear framework for the sake of discussion. or understandability. But stepping up into rainbow body, like if you think about the divided chakras, the rainbow going up, each chakra is still separation. That's still your energy body in separation. And when we go up into light body, into rainbow light body, it's all one. We're all rainbow light, and there's no more separation between different aspects of us. That's true of your energetic body as well. So that's just something I wanted to talk about. What else was I know I'm missing something. This is already long enough. I feel like I might do another live stream tomorrow, or probably tomorrow. What's today? Today's Friday. So I might do another one tomorrow because I actually have a lot to say, and there are definitely shifts going on in the financial network too. But I think that's enough for today. Let's see, is there anything else that needs to be said? Probably. Okay, I think that's enough. So I feel like I skipped over something. I feel like I started to say something and I got distracted and I went to another topic and now I've forgotten what it was. All right, whatever. If you feel like clearing for the masculine collective, go back and listen to the first part of this. The first part of this live stream. Drink a ton of water. That was the thing that came through yesterday, is that number one, the divine masculine, I think most people don't drink enough water, but the divine masculine's like flush, 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 clear for the divine, just deliver your intention. Say, I wish the divine masculine would, I wish for their stress to be alleviated. I wish to help them purge, and then watch what comes up for you. I hope it's nothing like the, like the crap I endured yesterday. But a lot of us are doing that. And I really don't mind it. If it helps the collective move on, that's why I volunteered for this job. Sure. Bring it on. We should do some more. It will speed up. Just, the last thing on that topic, it will really speed up the movement of the collective if they have less of the collective crap. So if you want to volunteer to clear for the masculine collective, to help the divine masculine aspects join their feminine, they seriously do need all the help they can get. This isn't a matter of seeing them, I was going to talk about that, seeing them as poor or needing help, because you don't want to have, they're actually very strong. They're very strong. There are divine masculines. Oh, crap, I forgot to say this earlier when I was talking about doing that clearing. One of the things that we put in, we did the clearing, but we also put in, we're encoding forgiveness. We filled in the field. Like, it's not just about clearing the blocks. You can't just focus on the blocks. Focus on the block, clear the blocks, but then also make sure that you intend the forgiveness, the love, the welcoming. Have your arms open. Release the judgment. Release this. So the things that were coming up for the divine masculine yesterday were tremendous amount of shame, a tremendous amount of guilt, tremendous amount of regret, self-hatred, feeling trapped. Another round of clearing. Hang on. Just when you thought it was safe to leave. 1 second. Clear shame, clear guilt, clear regret. There are going to be apologies. I get the sense in both directions, which is totally appropriate. Drink a lot of water. There was a lot of sand and grit, and I got the image of Legos, pine cones, and sand. Like nothing that you want it that's comfortable to hold. So just help them release it. Have your arms open. And I got the feeling, I forgot to say this. There was an issue of pride, a big issue about pride. Like they were ashamed of themselves, and they were sorry, but they didn't want, they were worried about being seen as either children or or they feel like they let the feminine down. Obviously not all of them. I'm not trying to make a generalization. This is just the group we were clearing for, that they had let the feminine down and the children down in terms of having not protected, having not provided, having withheld, having left abandoned, gone into competition, gone into ego, gone into self-service, and gone into regret. So there's a tremendous amount of regret, and a lot of them were sorry. So let's just clear that and welcome them back and say it's okay. We're all gonna get there together, and we're glad you're here now, and let's just go, and all is forgiven. So we programmed in forgiveness. So I think I'm gonna end on that note. But do stay. Oh! So isn't it significant that I turned Kenji loose on the kitchen table, and I said he was about to shed, and he did. He shed his whole skin. It came off in one big piece when I turned him loose on the table. That is significant. That means something. That's quite symbolic. So this is I think, what the Divine Masculine is doing now. So let's just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Hold ourselves in gratitude. And with this energy of being able to have an intention and have other people do it, have other people assist, let's just hold together the intention that the Divine Masculine slips out of whatever has bound him. Them. So that they can move freely. And that which is no longer necessary, they slip very easily out of it. And we're establishing a new world. Okay. I love you all. So much love going around. Look at them. Bye-bye.